Okay. Mm, 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 mm. Oops.
All right. My recording is going. So we are going to get started. All right. Before we get started, let me just ask you a question real quick. Let's start with a question. So how's everyone thinking about this road trip? Good times, bad times? Tell me what you think in the chat. In the chat, tell me. Does this sound like something you want to do on your spare time? Go on a road trip like this? Or are you like, no, I'd rather sit at home? All right, I for sure want to sit at home rather than get a pig and be stuck in a car and sleep in a dirty hotel room. No, thank you. So this, in my opinion, not going good. But remember, we just were talking about this dog. Remember, he got his finger bit by the pig and he's about to go to the veterinarian's office. So I feel we're actually on 129. I feel like my visit to the vet was payback for the whoopie pie incident, especially when the nurse weighed me on the same scale they use for dogs. I mean, just think, they probably don't have a human scale. It's a vet. Why would they have a human scale? The nurse took my temperature too, and I had to hold the thermometer under my tongue for 30 seconds. When I got back to the waiting room, Roderick told me that's when Roderick told me that when they take the animal's temperature, they stick the thermometer somewhere else, and they probably use the same one on all their patients. I was worried Roderick might be right, and then I realized this information was coming from a guy who was eating gerbil pellets. It's like the pellets means like food. Gross. Twice while we were waiting at the vets, Manny bolted out the front door, and both times Dad grabbed him before he got too far. I think Manny was pretty mad about us leaving his pig at the petting zoo, and he was acting out. When I was Manny's age, I used to get mad at Mom and Dad and try to run away all the time. I remember once when we were in the changing room at the pool, Mom was trying to make me wear a bathing suit I didn't like. I took off running, but I wasn't really thinking about where I was going. Roderick used to run away a lot too. When he was in first grade, he'd take off every day at the same time, but he'd come back home when Mom told him his favorite TV show was on. Okay, so apparently they're not very good at running away. When Manny tried to run away a third time today, Mom bought a retractable leash at the front desk to try to keep him under control. Okay, so now they got poor little Manny on a little leash. A retractable leash is like, I don't know if you've ever seen them, like people that have dogs, like you click a button and the leash goes really far out, and then you can click a button to make it stop, and then you can like make the leash go in and out. So it's retractable. I used to have one for my dog, but now I just have a regular leash. But once again, it's for animals. It's not normally for children. Mom also got a bandage for Roderick's foot so we could start going to restaurants as a family, which I think is silly. They just got him a bandage. Why don't we just stop at a store nearby and get him another pair of shoes? That would make more sense in my book. Even the dollar store probably has some flip flops he could wear. Finally, the veterinarian was ready to see me, and the nurse let us into the exam room. My palms were getting sweaty because I always get a little nervous when it's time to see a doctor. I'm not a big fan of needles, and Mom knows it. So whenever I need to get a flu shot or something, Mom doesn't tell me it's coming. And by the time I figure out what's going on, it's too late. Hey, that's a hot air balloon. Where? But there weren't any shots this time around. Mom told the vet what happened, and she took a look at my finger. The vet said there was nothing to worry about. The pig's teeth hadn't broken the skin. She put some antibiotic ointment on my finger just to be safe, then sent me on my way. I gotta say, I was pretty impressed by the whole veterinarian experience. The doctor was no nonsense and didn't ambush me with needles. I figured when I get back home, I might research some veterinarians in our area. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to make the switch, but I'd want to see what my options are. So, the veterinarian probably only saw him because it was kind of an emergency situation because it was such a small thing. A veterinarian isn't necessarily allowed to practice medicine on a human. They're allowed to practice medicine on animals. So he's not going to be able to find a veterinarian for his normal doctor. That's not going to work. After the vets, Dad spent some time trying to get the gum out of the sunroof with a popsicle stick, but it was too messy and eventually he gave up. Dad didn't like not being able to close the sunroof, so he drove around trying to find a mechanic who could fix it. But nobody he talked to would do it for under $100. So Dad went to the grocery store and bought some cellophane and duct tape, and he fashioned his own sunroof. Cellophane is like the stuff that it's like plastic wrap, the stuff your mom might cover food with, like leftovers and stuff. That's what like cellophane is. I think Dad was pretty proud of himself for saving money on repairs, especially when it started to rain and his homemade sunroof held up. But after a while, the cellophane started filling with water and bugs. Eventually, the whole thing gave way, and for once, I was glad I was sitting in the back. We are on page 136, Mr. Logan. We parked under an overpass and waited for the rain to clear up while Manny and Roderick changed into some dry clothes. The trip was a total disaster up to this point, and even Mom was ready to admit it. She said it probably wasn't such a good idea to do everything according to the magazine, and that if we switched things up, maybe we could turn the trip around. Clearly, Mom's talking, I don't know, and in this illustration, Dad, Manny, Roderick, and Greg, they all look unhappy to me. I don't know. Even though it's just a cartoon, you can tell they're like, yeah, can we get this over with already? Mom said that from then on, we'd go wherever the road took us and make decisions as a family along the way. She said the rest of the trip could be like those choose your own adventure books. I always like those books because on every page you get to make a decision that changes the story. The ancient statue has a priceless gem in its eye socket. The inscriptions at the base of the statue read, "Steal from me and perish. What do you do?" If you pry the gem from the statue, turn to page 40. If you stop and pet the kitten, turn to page 23. So Mom's on the, okay, you know what? If we see a sign, we think that sounds like fun, we'll do that. We'll just figure it out. So now they got no plan. They had tons of plans and none of them were working out. And now they got no plan. So let's see how no plan goes. The problem is, I never seem to make the choices that get me to the happy ending. In fact, it seems like no matter what choice I make, it's always the worst one. When you step onto the dais to pet the kitten, the ground beneath you gives way, opening into a deep chasm. You fall to the bottom and die. Better luck next time. The end. I wasn't so sure about Mom's new approach, but I figured anything was an improvement as long as I didn't get bit by any more pigs. After the rainstorm passed, we got back in the car and gave Mom's idea a try. When we reached our first intersection, she asked everyone if we should turn right or left or go straight. So we held the belt. Me and Roderick voted to turn right, and that's what we did. And when we got to another intersection, we voted again, and this time we turned left. We drove into this little town that had 2 restaurants, and after we voted, we went to one that ended up having the best apple pie I've ever tasted in my life. In fact, it was so good, we ordered a second one. Mom was really pleased with herself for coming up with this new approach and said she was going to write it into Family Frolic and tell them about it. The only person who wasn't having a good time was Manny, who still seemed upset about the pig. Mom kept the leash on him even while we were eating to make sure he didn't try and run away again. After lunch, Mom asked me to take Manny to the bathroom, which only had one toilet in it, so I waited outside for him to do his business. Manny was there for a while, and I started to wonder what was taking him so long. I finally opened the door, and he was gone. Luckily, Dad saw Manny through the front window of the restaurant and scooped him up before it was too late, because if it had been another minute or two, who knows how far he would have gotten. So you can see little baby Manny right there, and he's giving like the thumbs up sign, which is like the hitchhiker sign. So he's chilling at the front window like, hello, someone come pick me up, which you can't hitchhike. That's like illegal, so don't do that. We got back in the van, and Mom strapped Manny into his car seat. When we got to a stoplight, everyone agreed that we should go left, and we waited for the light to change. When it turned green, Dad stepped on the gas, but a car came out of nowhere and totally ran the red light. Dad laid on the horn, but the driver just kept on going. Then another car ran the light, and then another. It was like nobody even noticed that the light was red. Dad was getting pretty frustrated, and when he saw a gap between 2 cars, he put the pedal to the floor and hung a left. We barely squeezed in front of the next car, which also ran the light. When I looked back at the car behind us, I noticed something weird. There was a little flag on either side of the hood. Mom noticed the flags too, and she got really upset. She said the vehicles behind us are part of a funeral procession. If you don't know what a funeral procession is, you're about to find out. She explained that during a funeral, cars are allowed to go through red lights on their way to the church to the cemetery so they all can stick together. And now we cut off the line of cars. Okay, so I don't know if you've ever been in a funeral procession, but I have. So literally, like once you leave the funeral home and you drive to the cemetery, this is if they're being buried in a cemetery, you drive in a big line of cars, and there's normally a police escort, but there's always these little flags that says we're part of a funeral. So even if there's 10 red lights, everyone's allowed to stick together, and you're allowed to run those lights so you can all stay together. Otherwise, it would take, who knows how long for the whole family to get to the cemetery. It's just something that you do. It's like tradition. Tradition, that's one of our vocabulary words, but it's something that you do. So he was honking at all these people that are in a funeral. Obviously, that's not very polite. Funerals are like rough times for people. And now they're in the middle of it. So they probably look really silly and not very nice. They probably kind of look like jerks. Dad was getting panicky that all the cars behind our van was following us, and he tried to shake them off our trail by making a few quick turns. It didn't work though. Dad said he was going to get back on the highway and try to lose the cars that way. But Mom said the least we could do was lead the people behind us to the cemetery. So Mom typed cemetery into the GPS, and there was one a few blocks away. Quiet meadows, restful overlook, peaceful view, Pleasant Hill. Okay. I don't know about you, but I feel like this is not going to go well. But that's just me. I feel like nothing goes well for the Heffley family. So here's my prediction that them leading people to a cemetery, not going to go good. We drove through the gates and parked along the side of the path. Everyone who was following us got out of their cars, but they seemed confused. One look at the gravestones, and it was clear what happened. Apparently, the GPS treated all cemeteries the same, and it had taken us to a pet cemetery. Obviously, that's not where the people are going, right? Heck no. The people are not going to a pet cemetery if they're in a processional. They're going to a human cemetery, and now they're stuck at a pet cemetery, and now they're going to be behind, and oh my goodness. Luckily, Dad got us out of there before things got ugly. After escaping with our lives from the pet cemetery, everyone decided it would be best to just park it in for the night. We found a hotel a few miles away and got a room on the 7th floor. Dad wasn't comfortable leaving all of our stuff in the van since someone could get in through the sunroof and steal whatever they wanted. So we had to bring everything into the hotel. This morning, Mom wanted to keep going with the choose your own adventure plan. I was starting to wonder if it was such a great idea since it almost got us killed yesterday, but Mom was sticking to it. She grabbed a bunch of brochures from the front desk and brought them to breakfast so we could figure out what we wanted to do for the day. There were actually too many options and nobody could agree on what to do. Dad wanted to take an all-day guided tour of a Civil War battlefield. Mom wanted to go to the beach. Roderick wanted to go to the Electric Guitar Museum. What looked like the most fun to me was a place called Soak Central. We went to a water park last summer, but it got rained out, so I figured this could make up for it. But Mom read through the brochure and said Soak Central looked artificial, and that the whole point of this trip was to avoid places like that. Since nobody could agree on anything, Mom said that she was making the executive decision and that we were going to the beach. Okay, so they're all going to vote. They're all going to choose together. No one could decide. So Mom was just like, oh, okay, well, we'll go to the beach. So Mom kind of got what she wanted anyways. I'm not really much of a beach person myself. Whenever we go to one, we bring a blanket and spread it out. Then we sit there for the whole day. You can't really go anywhere because you're worried someone will take your spot. The last time we went to the beach, Dad brought the tarp he uses to cover the boat so we'd have more room for our family and all our stuff. But the tarp was at least twice the size of our old blanket, so it took up a ton of space on the beach, not to mention the fact that it was made of plastic. So the sun was beating down. It was like sitting on a frying pan. It was especially embarrassing when the rest of the family went to grab lunch on the boardwalk, so I had hung back on the tarp all by myself to watch our stuff. So now it's embarrassing because he has this huge amount of space and only himself. So people are probably like, why do you need so much space at the beach? How do you guys feel about the beach? Mrs. Kneifel is kind of a beach person. I'll go to the beach for like a few hours, but I'm not an all-day beach person. I get sunburned really easily, even if I put on sunblock. I'm telling you, I put sunblock on and I still always get a sunburn. So I wish I went to the beach more than I do. I do like it though. I definitely love to lay out, but only for so long. I can't do it all day. I can do it for a few hours. All right. We are continuing on. Dun 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 dun. So I wasn't real excited about going to the beach, especially since I knew Dad had his boat tarp with him. The beach was a few hours drive away, so I decided to take a nap until we got there. And believe me, with all the junk piled up in the back of the minivan, it wasn't easy. I woke up when the van slowed down. I thought we were at the beach, but we hadn't even gotten to the bridge yet. It seemed like everyone had the same idea we did. Honk honk, beep. So once again, they are stuck in traffic. Ugh. When we were about a quarter of a mile from the bridge, I could tell Dad was starting to get nervous. He hates bridges because for some reason he gets dizzy whenever he has to drive over one. The bridge to the beach is one of those kinds that's really high above the water, and I'm sure Dad wasn't looking forward to being stuck on it for the next half hour. Mom told Roderick he could drive, so we pulled over and everyone switched seats. Dad took up my place in the back so he wouldn't see the bridge out the front window, and I moved to the middle row. When Roderick got in the driver's seat, he took advantage of Dad's radio rule and blasted heavy metal music, and I could tell that wasn't helping Dad's nerves. We were only going about 3 miles an hour. It looked like we were going to be stuck on the bridge even longer than I expected. So I opened the bag of cheese curls Roderick bought at the grocery store. Let's assume cheese curls are probably like what? Type in the chat, what do you think cheese curls probably are? Cheetos. I agree. They're probably Cheetos. An off-brand of Cheetos. You know, sometimes things that aren't Cheetos brand, but they're the exact same things as Cheetos have like a different name, you know, so what ifs. So anyways, we are stuck on the bridge. And he's like, you know what? I might have some snacks, okay? There was a seagull sitting on the bridge railing next to our minivan, and it looked right at me. I guess I felt kind of sorry for it, so I tossed a cheese curl out the sunroof. I have to say, I was pretty impressed when the seagull caught the thing mid-air. All right, before we continue on, what do we think is going to happen next? The sunroof is stuck open, and he threw food out of it to a seagull. Do any of you know anything about a seagull? Do any of you have a prediction of what might happen now? Hayden, that's probably a good guess. More are coming. Seagulls are kind of in packs. Seagulls definitely will attack for food. They're definitely going to want more. So feeding a seagull one piece of food is not where it's going to stop. So you guys probably have some good guesses that there might be some seagull wars going on in just a minute. Dun, 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 dun. I was about to throw another one, but Mom stopped me. She said seagulls are really aggressive and giving them people food is a bad idea. She was right about aggressive thing because 2 seconds later, the seagull was on top of the car and you could tell it wanted more food. I threw another one at it and tried to make it go away, but the seagull bobbed the cheese curl, which fell right back into the car. Uh-oh. That's when things got bad. The seagull hopped down into the car and ate the cheese curl off the floor. For a second, everyone was in a state of shock that the seagull was in our van, and nobody moved a muscle. The seagull squawked a few times, then tried to fly back out the way it came in, but it missed the opening by about 2 feet and smacked into the roof. Now they have a seagull in their car. So previously they had a pig in the car, and now they have a seagull. These people literally cannot catch a break in life. Then it just went completely nuts, flying around and crashing into the window. Everyone was in total panic, and feathers and cheese curls were everywhere. Then the seagull got greedy and grabbed the bag of cheese curls off the floor. But I snagged it and held onto it for dear life. Everyone was yelling at me to let go of the bag, but I wasn't giving in. Okay, if a bird is stuck in my car and wanted my Cheetos, I'd be giving it the Cheetos so it would leave, okay? But Greg is here literally having a fight over Cheetos. Oh my goodness. I could just imagine there's car and birds, like people that are probably next to them in a car next to them is probably like, what's happening there? Is there like, you know, what's happening? I'm sure it just looks absolutely crazy. Finally, the seagull beat me in tug of war and flew straight up through the sunroof, taking the cheese curls with it. But the seagull didn't get too far with the bag. About 3/4 of the cheese curls ended up back in the minivan, and from there it was a total nightmare. Hello? Oh, yeah. Sheila asked. I am currently reading right now. How about like 10 o'clock? Uh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. All right, bye. Ooh, sorry, peeps. I had a phone call. Okay. Anyways, so as you can tell by the illustrations, more birds got the cheese curls. Then cheese curls fell back in the car. Then now there's more birds, and life is literally a mess. A few of the seagulls flew up front, and Roger got so freaked out he hit the gas. When the birds finally cleared out and things settled down, we had a whole new problem. Based on that illustration, what happened? If you hit the gas, what happened? You type it in the chat. Crash! Yeah, you guys are right. So he accidentally rear-ended the person in front of him. And you guys probably don't know, because you guys are children, that if you ever rear end someone, it's automatically your fault. So which it clearly is his fault because he ran into him, but then you got to file with your insurance, then your insurance can go up and blah, 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 blah. Not a good thing. Believe it or not, the people in the car that we rear-ended were actually pretty nice. It was a man and his wife, and they seemed to understand it was an accident. So they exchanged insurance information with Dad, and the police didn't even need to get involved. If anything good came out of the accident, it was that it got us out of going to the beach. All right, let me finish this page. The bad news was that now our minivan wouldn't start, and we had to wait an hour for a tow truck to come. All the traffic went down to one lane, and that didn't make us too popular with people trying to cross the bridge. So just think, they are already super, super busy. The bridge was already super packed, and now there's a car accident too. So that, I don't know if you're ever on the road when there's a car accident, things definitely slow down. The guy at the auto repair shop said we cracked the radiator and it was going to take at least 4 to 5 hours to fix it. That meant we needed to find something to do for the rest of the day. When we stepped outside, I was pretty shocked to find out we were only 2 blocks away from Soak Central, which is where I wanted to go in the first place. Dun, da, da, da. Dun, da, da. Okay, we are going to stop there because we are totally out of time. So you guys will probably have questions on Monday. We will probably finish it Tuesday or Wednesday, etc., etc. Thanks for joining. If you came in late, I will post this. And yeah, so ta-ta, peeps. You may leave me.